Good day to all of you. I wish to be there with you in this event and so-called wonderful city of Delhi, which my friends who visited there told me a lot about the city. But unfortunately, I cannot join you because of a personal journey at the same dates. But my heart is with you, and I congratulate the Indian authorities who is eager to implement drug safety projects for the protection of people. For the last couple of years, the number of counterfeited drugs has increased. Pharma counterfeiting has become a global problem. Consistent education of the public and stricter laws didn't make a significant effect of combating the issue. As counterfeiters become more sophisticated, we have concluded that we need a more sophisticated approach to this problem. In developed countries, it's less, but the average counterfeit ratio of drugs is 10% according to the WHO. However, illegitimate internet pharmacies ship their illegal products worldwide. In some countries, the ratio of counterfeited drugs is over 50%. These drugs can harm the health and even the lives of patients. Therefore, the problem is not just counterfeit, it's in fact murder. In Turkey, we have a saying of Sheikh Edebali: let people live so the state would live. We have approached the problem from this point of view and targeted guaranteeing the lives of people. Maybe some of you are familiar with this content. This is nothing more than a problem-solving loop. First, I will define the problem and tell you what the situation in Turkey was. Then I will tell you the solution and define it. After that, we will talk about how we implemented it, and at the end, give you some statistics about the system and talk about the outcomes. The main problem in Turkey was to ensure and guarantee the reliable supply of drugs to the patients. The secondary problems that we faced was preventing the sale of illegal drugs, smuggled drugs, illegal sale of drugs, barcode scams, and of course, by using this valuable data, support rational use of medicines. We reached a result at the end that includes all of them, moreover not limited to these. All stakeholders have licenses from Medicines and Medical Devices Agency in Turkey. And also all drugs are getting registered to the system of the agency after getting the permission from the scientific committee. The price of a drug is also defined by the agency, and 91% of the drugs are paid by the Reimbursement Association of the state. By knowing all these, you may conclude that the biggest customer of the industry is the state itself. So, the rest is very likely to other countries. A manufacturer manufactures a drug and sells it to a wholesaler. And if the wholesaler sells these drugs to a drug consuming center, such as hospitals, family physicians, polyclinics, in other words, the stakeholders that don't sell the drug to the patient, just uses the drug on the patient. The wholesaler enters a tender and sells the drugs in big amounts. But if the wholesaler sells the drug to a retail pharmacy, which in Turkey should be managed by a pharmacist, then the wholesalers sell the drugs by small amounts but in high frequencies. The drug consuming centers are clearly opens the drug pack and uses every tablet on a different patient, but don't sell the drug. The retail pharmacies, on the other hand, sell the drug pack to the end user and rarely get the price in cash, but mostly send the invoice to the Reimbursement Association or an insurance company if the patient has a private insurance and paid by the reimbursement entity. After telling you the structure in Turkey, let's talk about the solution. The solution is traceability, which is defined as, this definition is the GS1 definition of traceability, and it includes track, it's the answer to the question, where is the drug? And trace, which is the answer to the question, where it comes from. And authentication, pedigree, it's the answer to the question which ingredients combined together and created which drug. And returns and recalls. So our system includes all of them. So the solution is ITS, which is the word-by-word translation of pharmaceutical track and trace system in Turkish. Formerly, all drug packs in Turkey was containing GS1 GTIN and barcode to make it machine readable. In ITS, we first made the drug packs to be serialized by a serial number, which is a GS1 standard, and marked them with another GS1 standard data matrix to make it machine readable. Then we constructed a centralized repository to make all the stakeholders to notify the central management system about every action that take on the drug pack. So ITS doesn't have any interface that is designed for the stakeholder. It has some reach points named as web services that can be used by the software applications that stakeholders use. I mean, all stakeholders are using their own management systems, and those management systems has interfaces for the use of the stakeholder, and in the background, the management system communicates with ITS to notify about the action taken on the drug pack. In this manner, ITS can track and trace a drug by using its serial number from the point of manufacture to the point of dispense. By this way, it's for sure that ITS is a fully interoperable, electronic, unit-level serialization based track and trace system for pharmaceuticals. As a result, we changed the situation of the pharmaceutical sector from being a high-profit, low-risk sector for criminals to a high-risk, low-profit. So criminals are still criminals, but they move to other sectors such as tobacco, food supplements, and other stuff. Now in Turkey, we are working to apply this system in other sectors also. So this is the main slide of my presentation. Let me tell you the situation in Turkey after ITS. We have ITS, a central repository for serialized pharmaceuticals, and we have PTS, a centralized file sharing platform between stakeholders. PTS that you see in the below of the slide, that PTS is the package transfer service. In ITS, we are tracking and tracing the drugs by individual packs. In other words, ITS is working on the basis of drug packs, but the real trade doesn't go that way. Real trade is going by cartons, boxes, pallets, and so on. So we created a new standard of language that can be used between the stakeholders to share the hierarchical data that containers include and named it as PTS XML standard. First stakeholder who is making a container is creating an XML file that contains the information of which container includes which drug packs and uploads this XML file to PTS. After the physical transaction is done, the second stakeholder downloads the XML file from PTS and learns the hierarchy of the container, then resamples some of the drug packs in the container to verify the XML file data is correct, and uses the data of drug packs in the XML file to notify the action to ITS. After telling you ITS and PTS, let's have a look at the workflow. A manufacturer manufactures a drug pack and sends a manufacturer notification to ITS. This is the birth record of the drug pack. Then after an order comes from a wholesaler, the manufacturer sends the sale order, the sale notification to ITS for the drug packs that he will deliver, and creates an XML file containing the container hierarchy and uploads it to PTS. After the shipment is done and delivered to the wholesaler first downloads the XML file from PTS and uses the drug pack information in XML file to notify ITS about the purchase action. After the wholesaler sends the purchase notification to ITS, the ownership of the drug changes from manufacturer to the wholesaler. The same way, a retail pharmacy or a drug consumer center sends an order to the wholesaler. The wholesaler sends the sale notification to ITS and uploads the XML file that he constructed to PTS. Then he sends the drugs to the corresponding stakeholder. The retail pharmacy or the drug consuming center downloads the XML file from PTS and uses the information of drug packs to notify the purchase action to ITS. For the drug consuming centers, the consume notification is done right before opening the drug pack. And this is the death of the drug in the system. And the system prevents this drug to be used twice. But for the retail pharmacies, after getting the prescription from the patient, she sells the drug pack to the patient and sends the invoice to the reimbursement association at the end of the financial calendar. The reimbursement association queries the sale from ITS and verifies if all the information that the retail pharmacy sent are correct before paying the price to the retail pharmacy, and then pays the price to the pharmacy. So the system after ITS is like this in Turkey. But of course, different countries have different rules, different laws, and different supply chains. So this should be customized with respect to the needs of the other country that is eager to implement such a system. We implemented the solution in 3 phases. First phase was preliminary phase, including workshops with the industry, creating and defining the common standards, making the legislations, and defining the timeline. The second phase is named as phase 1, which is including meeting technology standards for serialization and printing data matrix on the drug pack, and consequently, in this phase, manufacturer notification and the sale notification of the pharmacies was obligatory. And the reimbursement association was querying the sale before paying the price to the pharmacies. This is very likely to the European system, European Hub EMVS system, which is named as end-to-end system, but it's in fact end-and-end system. There are a lot of gaps between the first starting point at the end. So we leaved a lot of these types of problems when we implemented phase 1. And all the stakeholders and the government also insisted to early implement phase 2 because of these problems. In the third and the last phase, which is named as phase 2, the aggregation is done. By different words, all notifications are obligatory for all stakeholders. And as the government, the monitoring and support decision systems are developed. Let's look at some statistics of the system, which is working for over 3 years. It's 2012 till here. It's 6 years. Oh, it's 6 years, and the starting date was 2000. It's more than 8 years passed. Yes, 8 years passed after the first implementation. As you can see, we have more than 40,000 stakeholders included in the system. And we tracked and traced more than 6.5 billion drug packs in ITS, and nearly 4 billion of them are sold. For the technical people who are curious about response time, it's 0.01 seconds. It's 10 milliseconds. And our uptime ratio is 99.99975. So, which is over Tier 4 standards. So technically, by speaking technically, it's a very, very fast system, and the performance and the uptime ratios are incredible. Let's get to the outcomes of the system. If you can remember, our main objective was to ensure the reliable supply of drugs to the patients. But we achieved more. We prevented the sale of counterfeit and smuggled drugs, prevented illegal sale of drugs, barcode scams, and also drug thefts. These 5 issues gave us saving of $1 million annually. Of course, some of you may see that the counterfeit and smuggled drugs are less with respect to the other countries in Turkey. The barcode scams were high. Of course, we prevented the barcode scams, but also we had, and other countries have smuggled drugs and counterfeit drugs problems. So it's about 10%, as I said, with respect to WHO, and it will have a cost saving of 10% annually. By considering that pharmaceutical industry is $10 million in Turkey, this saving has a significant effect. And also, we removed some of the bureaucratic things that saved our time, and the system gave us some instruments to support the fight against narcotics and black market. We can do more complex recalls, and they can be instantly applied. We can recall a batch or a half of a batch of a drug from just some type of stakeholders, and we can do the recall way, such as stopping the sale or allow to go backwards in the supply chain. And at the time we enter this recall to the system, it starts instantly and no one can treat against the rule. The data in the system is a valuable data. We can use this data to support rational use of medicines, create administrative reports, monitor the industry, or prevent tax fraud. Faster decisions and more consistent estimations can be made by using this instantly updated data. You can learn all the details and updated statistics from the website its.technarts.com. And thank you for listening to me, and I'm open to any type of questions coming from you in the questions and answers step.